A lot of groups that said, talking about like they didn't, this is just, and I think a lot of it was just a way to eat off like what Adolf created. So Adolf created this group where you got kind of a special preference because of what the group had
That's
mentioned.
exactly. That's exactly. I remember to this day when they were talking about Hispanics on TV, and my family was like, "Oh, what? This is ridiculous." They're just suddenly calling Spanish people minorities, and they became minorities so that they could take advantage of affirmative action, so that they could get federal funding for minorities.
It's very random. I've seen this done before, but I'm not sure what they're doing, holding up traffic on the freeway like this. But I've seen this done before. I don't know what the fuck this is. You get the fuck out. Fuck it out. I don't know what that was about. I think they got a construction. It's okay. Just goes to show you they could shut you down at any time, almost any place, even on the freeway. Like, yeah. Just watching Yvette tonight. I only so far peeped a little bit of it. Yeah, this reminds me of a conversation she's talking about the fake POC issue, people of color, minority, the whole game that been ran on black people with this fake black-brown coalition. There's no such thing. Listen to a brother who was actually, I guess he was a few generations in, talked about how he remembered the time when Latinos were not considered minorities.
When I heard you mention the show today, I was so excited because I have so much to say.
Okay.
People of color is really and truly a con, because the concept did not always exist. It came about in the 80s when colored was broadened to include all kinds of people across the world who were never considered minorities before. I come from a Texas family, and when my family was growing up in Texas, there was no such thing as a Hispanic minority group. That didn't exist. Even though Texas has a long history of Spanish people, there have always been Mexicans in Texas. They used to be white. They were not minorities. They went to schools with white children. They sat on the front of the bus in the white section. They drank from white water fountains. They were not on the back of the bus with black people. And then one day in the 80s, when I was a kid, it was announced on TV, the Hispanic group, and no one had ever heard that. That is when Mexicans became minorities. That is when they became people of color. So this concept did not always exist. People don't understand that. Hello?
Yeah, I've seen that with a lot of groups that said, talking about like they didn't. This was just, and I think a lot of it was just a way to eat off like what Adolf created. So Adolf created this group where you got kind of a special preference because of what the group had mentioned.
That's exactly. I remember to this day when they were talking about Hispanics on TV, and my family was like, "Oh, what? This is ridiculous." They're just suddenly calling Spanish people minorities, and they became minorities so that they could take advantage of affirmative action, so that they could get federal funding for minorities.
And I know this for a fact because I know there's plenty of Latinos, Hispanics today who identify as white or Caucasian when it comes down to paperwork. I've been knowing this. I see this in my current job, signing people up for benefits. And these Latinos, these Puerto Ricans, Cubanos, Dominicans, they're white.
America's surging politics of victimhood and identitarian division did not emerge organically or inevitably as many believe, nor are these practices the result of irrepressible demands by minorities for recognition or for redress of past wrongs as we are constantly told. those explanations are myths, spread by the activists, intellectuals, and philanthropists who set out to deliberately, beginning at mid-century, to redefine our country. Their goal was mass mobilization for political ends, and one of their earliest targets was the Mexican-American community. These activists strive purposefully to turn Americans of this community, who mostly resided in the southwestern states, against their countrymen, teaching them to first see themselves as a racial minority, and then to think of themselves as the core of a pan-ethnic victim group of Hispanics, quote-unquote, a fabricated term with no basis in ethnicity, culture, or race. This transformation took effort because many Mexican Americans had traditionally seen themselves as white. When the 1930 census classified Mexican American as a race, leaders of the community protested vehemently and had the classification changed back to white in the very next census.
They're checking white and Caucasian. Even Middle Easterners, they check white or Caucasian. During the Jim Crow era, Mexicans and other Latino people discriminated against black people during Jim Crow. And this was like a conversation I was having with a friend of mine back and forth on, on Instagram, I believe it was, where she asked me, when she saw my hard stance on immigration, particularly illegal immigration, she asked me, you don't like immigrants? And I'm like, it's not about me liking immigrants. It's just that I understand how immigration has been weaponized against black people. And politically, we need to change our stance because there's no such thing as a black-brown coalition. First of all, how is it a black-brown coalition when even if you're brown, you check white on the box? You're checking white or Caucasian. So there is no black-brown coalition. If you're checking white on the box, and the only reason why you became a minority or identified as a person of color is so you could hone in on benefits that were set aside for ex-slaves, for American descendants of slavery. So no, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that your immigration status has been weaponized against my people. And there's a complicit or tacit agreement between, many immigrants, not just Latin immigrants, but black immigrants. There's a knowledge of when they're coming in that they know that the American descendant of slaves position is on the bottom and that they can come here and they can eat off the failure of the accrued disadvantage of 400 years of chattel slavery, Jim Crow, and systemic discrimination. So no, I don't have I don't have to respect anybody's hustle who's coming in to siphon off my benefits that I paid the price for, that my ancestors paid the price for. We always give a nod to the ancestors. So how are we going to actually justify squandering the birthright that our ancestors bequeathed us, whatever it may be, or however little it may be materially? They left us a legacy of a struggle and of a payment that was extracted, that was over centuries, trauma exacted upon us, and we seek redress and to be repaid. And if you just got here, you have no part in that. You can help pay, especially if you're here reaping the benefits of a struggle that we paid the price in blood for. So it's not about me liking illegal immigrants. You have legal immigrants who take a hard stance on immigration because they understand that those who come and skip the line may be taken away from their benefits. They understand how illegal immigrant labor fucks over the job market, pushes down wages. I mean, this is basic economics. And it's time for black people to wake up. 60 years ago, if there was a Mexican restaurant, they had whites only signs. You couldn't go eat in there during Jim Crow. So yeah, I'm gonna get more into this. This was just on my mind right now while I was in the car and listening to Yvette Carnell, Breaking Brown. I gotta finish listening. But this is right on time because these are conversations that we need to have. And these are conversations that I'm actually having, with those in my circle, those in my family and friends who I communicate with. We have to be more self-interested. You know what I mean? And, if that means that we have to take a hard stance on immigration, that means putting the gate up around our community, then that's what we have to do. We have to stop thinking about ourselves and thinking that we okay. And we have to start thinking 3 or 4 generations down the line. And it's never too late to start planning. It's never too late, for a paradigm shift. So that's all I'm saying right now. We have to look at the outcomes and stop being so altruistic and want to be so morally superior when we're talking about politics. Politics isn't truly a moral game when it comes to receiving benefits. Resources that are limited and trying to make sure that your group gets their fair share. It could be a dirty game, but it's definitely a self-interested game. And it's not about, I'm a good person, so I feel like I don't mind if my benefits are squandered on those who didn't pay the price for them. So, again, I'm just tapping in real quick. Something that was on my head. And I'm gonna get back into this in a little bit with some data to back it up. So yeah, this is Bill. This is signing off Dirty Laundry Media. Again, it's just a quick hit. If you're on the channel, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Share this video. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Good night.